All right, welcome back to the historic fields of Waterloo here in Belgium. Here we are riding in from the Lion's Mound, which we covered in the last video, which is an impressive, probably one of the most impressive war monuments in Europe, made back in the 1820s. So here we are making our way toward an area where some of the most fiercely contested and critical sites of the entire battle took place. The Hougoumont Farm. Back here. Zo, die oude bomen zitten ook om 1815.
Halloween, hoor.
Ja. Old trees, some still living. When you roll in, as you're passing under the shade of these ancient chestnut trees, take a moment. These living witnesses were already here in 1815. They stood watch over the farm for over 300 years, bearing silent testimony to the chaos, courage, and carnage that once unfolded here, and probably a lot of other historical things that happened throughout the times. Believe it or not, Hougoumont, the farm here, was originally built as a medieval estate in the 14th century. Though the farm buildings you see today largely date from the 17th and 18th centuries. It was a working farm before the Battle of Waterloo and belonged to the Gaumont family, hence the name which evolved into Hougoumont. By 1815, the estate included a fortified farmyard, orchard, gardens, a walled enclosure, and thick woods. And that woods became a problem for the French as they came upon the farm. They didn't realize how big, fortified, and how many troops were stationed around it. They just didn't see them through the thick of the wood. All of which would have become key defense positions for the Allied troops. Coldstream Guards. Wow. In memory of the officers and the men of the 2nd Battalion, Coldstream Guards, who, while defending Hougoumont Farm, successfully held the south gate from successive attacks throughout 18th of June 1815. I mean, amazing. I'll do another video on these trees. There's some interesting bits and bytes about them. For instance, we heard that people believe that getting a piece of bark from the tree would cure you. That's why they put the fence around. Hougoumont was more than a farmhouse. It was a fortress, as you could see from the walls as we drove in. Wellington himself later said that, quote, "The success of the battle turned upon the closing of the gates at Hougoumont." Napoleon's army launched wave after wave of attack here, hoping to break through the Allied right flank. But the British Guards, along with the Dutch, Belgium, German, and Nassau troops, held the line. German troops meaning Prussian, PR. Prussians at that time were like Germany, Poland, and even part of Russia. The defenders closed the wooden gates just in time, actually time after time, at one point trapping French attackers inside, and turned the tide of the fight. Yeah, this was the gate. It wasn't just any skirmish. This was a desperate effort to turn Wellington's right flank and break the Allied line. Amid the chaos, a fierce firefight erupted at the North Gate, the infamous North Gate. The other gate where we walked in the beginning was never breached, by the way. French soldiers, bayonets fixed and roaring with fury, forced their way into the courtyard for a moment. Just a moment. It looked like they had broken through. But inside, Lieutenant Colonel James MacDonnell of the Coldstream Guards acted without hesitation. With just a handful of men, including Corporal James Graham, he surged toward the gate. In the tight, brutal melee that followed, they fought hand to hand. Musket balls crashing, blades slashing until they pushed the French back and slammed the wooden gate shut. With sweat and blood staining the uniforms, they heaved the heavy beam across and bolted this infamous gate, saving Hougoumont Farm from falling. That single act, that split-second courage, helped hold the line. So the French came in from here and here, and the English had their troops back here behind the hill, and of course in the farm. And decisive battle, keeping those gates closed, basically changed world history. Over 6,000 men fought and died around this small compound. Inside the chapel, in the middle there, a statue now remembers the fallen, a symbol of both loss and determination. Yeah, pretty wild, pretty wild. From here you can also see the Lion's Mound in the distance, towering above the battlefield. It's a powerful reminder of what was at stake and how close Napoleon came to victory. Mind you, he had just escaped from exile in Elba in Italy. If he would have won this battle, it would have solidified him once again as a powerful force in Europe and in France, where there was division. France. After this loss, he was exiled again, this time to St. Helena, where the British guarded him night and day. Hougoumont reminds us that the battles are often won not by grand strategies alone, but by grit, timing, and the bravery of ordinary soldiers in extraordinary circumstances. In one of the next videos, we'll cover Napoleon's headquarters, his last headquarters, the day before and of the battle, and how confident he was of victory, while his generals were against going to war on that day. So next time you stand here by this farm, listen to the wind and the chestnut leaves, and remember, history was written here, gate by gate, brick by brick, and, unfortunately, life by life, which reminds me of the ignorance of war. And that was all filled with trees, so that they couldn't see the French were coming in this way. They didn't see this farm. They thought it was a very small farm, but they couldn't see all the troops around it, and they got surprised. That was part of the success of, and of course holding them back at the gates over there.